Hi, my name is Gordy Hogue, and this is Community Connection. Each of us have stories that help us understand each other and help to bring our community closer together. I have been very fortunate to have met many interesting people who've had a positive, profound impact on our community and far beyond. People who've had incredible life experiences and fascinating stories. Community Connections is about these people and about their stories. I'm sure you'll enjoy meeting these amazing people as much as I have. Thank you. Please enjoy. Welcome to Community Connections. My name is Gordy Hogue, and I'm delighted that today's guest is a woman who's made enormous contributions to our community and to other communities over the years. And she, along with her board of directors more recently, has presided over the evolution and development of hospice services in the South Surrey White Rock area. She presided over the development of a new name, of a new care center, a thrift shop, new connections within the community, and has really seen the growth of a vision, which I think was started many years ago by Teresa Hotel. And she's built on that to have one of the best services that have existed in our province. Welcome, Beth Kish.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Can you talk a little bit about growing up and your life and prior to you coming to this community and being involved in so many activities here?
Sure. I was born in Calgary, Alberta, and I'm one of 9 children, number 8.
A lucky number.
So yeah, it's fun being raised in a big family. Well, I should say I always describe it, there's more of everything. So when there's laughter, there's more of it. And when there's tears, there's more of them. So, but it was always interesting. My dad was a commercial artist in Calgary for Associated Grocers, and my mom ran a few ladies' clothing stores.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it was really neat. And yeah, we ended up living on a hobby farm just outside of High River. And then I ended up working in Calgary after high school and meeting my husband, who's from White Rock.
Yeah.
So that was how my connection with White Rock and my love of White Rock came about. So yeah, we worked together, and we have 2 children. We have a son, Grant, and our daughter, Wendy. And Wendy's now 32 and Grant is 30. And my son just got married this summer, and my daughter gets married next summer. So we're excited to have grandchildren, hopefully soon.
So you can talk a little bit about your life in the Calgary area, and you were on a council there and involved in activities in that community?
Yeah, when I started, it's kind of a really odd path to get to hospice, but I actually ran an interior design business for 14 years. And that was my first connection with hospice, because when you have a retail storefront, as a lot of people know, you get asked for a lot of donations to, whether it be the hockey club or, whatever is going on. And so my business partner and I decided, I said, you pick a charity you want, and I'll pick one I want. And we can then give more fully to that charity. And I chose hospice. So through my interior design business, I was always doing stuff for hospice. I donated a room makeover to their gala every year. And I ended up donating one of the rooms at the hospice that we built. And just really, really, it resonated with me. And running a business it was a small town just outside of Calgary, Okotoks. You get to know a lot of people, and when you have a business front. And I ended up getting involved in the Chamber of Commerce and became president of the Chamber of Commerce, and then was encouraged to run for city council. So I did that. I ran for council, and did 1 term on council and just loved it, because it was, I just love community, anything to do with community, and probably very much like yourself, Gordy. And so I just loved it. So I actually it was supposed to be a part-time job. I made it a full-time job, sold my business, and got involved in every single committee there was. Worked extensively with the Calgary Regional Partnership, which was all of the surrounding areas, Beth, Cochrane, Calgary, many, many communities, talking about regional servicing and the benefits of working together, the efficiencies, not only financially, but environmentally and everything. So that was really exciting time in my life, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then the mayor said he was not coming back for another term, and encouraged me to run for that position. So I thought, sure, I'll do that. And there was one other councillor running against me, and I'll just say that telling the truth wasn't important to him. I'll just say that. And he won by 101 votes.
Wow.
And at the time I was devastated, because I was like, I'd sold my business. I didn't have a job. I'm like, wow, this is, bad. And I won't be able to do all this great work. And I'm off all these committees. And I was so sad. And when you have a high profile in the community, you get asked, offered a lot of jobs, and everything from car salesman at the Toyota dealership to all kinds of things, which was a great job, but not my dream job. And then because of my work with hospice, the Hospice Society approached me about becoming their executive director. And I was like, gee, I don't know about that, because I don't know a lot about hospice and medical stuff. And they said, yeah, but you're a successful business person. You sold your business, and you are comfortable in the political arena, and you've been a big fundraiser for us. So you have a lot of the elements that make up that, somebody for that position. So I accepted the position, and it was for the Foothills Country Hospice, which was a 8-bed hospice in rural Alberta. I think it's the only standalone rural hospice in Canada. So it was really an eye-opener for a change of pace from decorating to politics to hospice. But it has truly been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. It's just amazing. I mean, the things that you're so fortunate to be a part of and allowed to be in those moments that are so extremely special for people is really an honor and a privilege. And always people say, well, how do you work in hospice? It must be, so sad and so awful. And it's just the contrary. It's so I've witnessed the most beautiful moments in life and death that have shaped the decisions I make in my life and what I've shared with my families and friends. And it changes your life, because you recognize every moment of every day how to be grateful and to give back, and not to have regrets, and do what you need to do. So it's been an amazing role. But the reason I left Foothills Country Hospice was my kids, because Rob's dad, my husband's father, was a teacher, as you know, out here in White Rock.
Not me, yeah.
Frank Kish. And so when the kids were little, we came out to White Rock every chance we got, every Christmas, every summer holiday, every Easter. We love this place. So we'd come out here, and our hopes was that our kids would fall in love with this place too. And luckily it went according to plan, and which doesn't always happen. And the kids finished university in Calgary and both got jobs in Vancouver. So we were thrilled. And my husband was in the oil industry. And so everything was good, except we didn't have our kids with us. So we decided to make the move out to BC. And I first got a job with the Surrey Hospice Society as their executive director. So was able to leave Alberta and come right into a job. And my husband retired a little early, his late 50s, but we recognized, because of my work, what's important, and that was being where you want to be with the ones that you love. So we made that decision to come out here, and it was one of the best decisions, well, clearly the best decision we ever made. We still go for walks at night and go, can you believe we live here? We can't believe it. Every street looks like a movie set to me. It's so clean and green and beautiful, and we just love it. So then after a year with the Surrey Hospice Society, they were looking for an executive director in White Rock. And so I made the move to come to White Rock because it was so close to my home, and it's kind of thing that it's not like moving to a town and you're an accountant or a hairdresser and you've got options of where you can go when you're executive director of a hospice. There's only one job. so, so I kind of knew when it came up, I thought, I got to take it. I felt guilty leaving Surrey because there was so much more I could do there. But I needed to be selfish and take the job when it arose. So yeah, loved to come here. So that was about 6.5 years ago that I got the job here, and we've lived here, I guess it'll be almost 8 years now. Yeah.
So can you talk, when you came here, I think it was called the South Surrey White Rock Hospice, or White Rock Hospice originally, I think, and the name's changed. Can you talk about the name changes and then the growth and the development of the support center, the care supportive care center, the evolution of that, and also now that the Peace Arch Hospital has developed their hospice not that far from the supportive care center, and how the services have evolved over your 6.5 years of leadership with a supportive board and a supportive community.
Well, sure. I just wonder if I can just flip the script for a bit, because when I came here, I knew I needed to make contacts in the community, and that's how you build an organization, is all about connections, friendships, relationships that you develop. And one of the first things somebody told me was, you got to get to know Gordy Hogue.
Oh dear.
So they said, Gordy Hogue's he's got you, he'll connect you with the right people and the right things. So I came home and told my husband, I said, I got to get to know this Gordy Hogue. And my husband said, well, I know Gordy Hogue. And I said, well, how do you know him? And he said, well, he saved my life. And I went, oh, he saved your life? And so he said, yeah. He says, I was walking home from school. He lived, I guess, not too far from your parents' house. And he's a little bit younger than you. Probably he was in elementary and you were in junior high or something. And a couple of kids came to harass him when we're roughing him up and pushing him around, a couple of older kids. And you came up and gave him heck and told him to get lost and pick on someone their own size, or they'd have to deal with you. And so my husband says you saved his life.
A bit dramatic, I think.
So anyways, that was part of, coming to the community and getting to know people. Like Lori Ishikawa was a big community connector. So many people that, that's what it takes to support an organization like this, because it isn't one person, it's the whole community that builds it up. So we were in, when I got there, they were in, it was a little bit rough shape. And they were going through tough times, and we were in a little house across the street from the hospital on Russell. And it was rough. It would flood every second year in the basement, and we had no access for people with mobility issues, and it was tough and it was rough, and people would still come for help. It was amazing. It was that we were still able to help hundreds and hundreds of people. My office was in the basement had a little window with a broken screen, and we started naming the rats that were running across the windows. And I had no flooring, just cement floor, and no drywall up about 3 feet, because we decided to save the money and not replace any of it. So it was rough. So I began with just getting to know everybody, and then we were going to launch a capital campaign to raise money to build a new supportive care center, which was much needed. And we recognized that the name White Rock South Surrey Hospice Society was long, difficult, and made it look more like a business rather than a not-for-profit community society. So we decided to look at changing the name. Most every hospice society except ours is named after their local hospital. So that's the direction we went, and we decided to change the name, which has been really, really good. And just even the words peace, I mean, in our name makes sense. It's what we do. So so that was really good. And then we launched on a capital campaign and raised $2.5 million. We had a couple of big contributions. One was from our president then, Robin Harper, who donated half of a parcel of land that we are on now. Another was one of our volunteers, Maggie Rogers, who we found out she had cancer for a long time off and on. And when she passed, we found out she donated us her home. Wow. So those were big pivotal points for us to be able to continue to raise the rest of the money, build the building, and move in there. So then during that time, the residence was located on the 6th floor of the hospital, and it had 7 beds, and it had been retrofitted into a hospital setting, which is not really what hospice is about, a home-like environment. And we did the best we could, but it wasn't great. So the Hospital Foundation was building a building for Fraser Health, and Fraser Health wanted 15 hospice beds for this community. So they rent that space from the foundation now, and we have 15 beds. Only 10 are open just due to staffing and budget cuts, but we have the capability to have 15. And it's perfectly located just down the street from the new supportive care center, because our volunteers and staff walk back and forth to the hospice residence and to the supportive care center. And it's nice having the supportive care center separate, because we do all the grief and bereavement support there. And a lot of people that lose somebody in hospice don't ever want to go back there again, even for support, because it was such a difficult time in their lives. Even if they received, which I know they did, the best care possible, just walking through those doors is too tough. So just being down the road in a really nice home-like environment where our counselors are is really beneficial to the society. So yeah, so we've been in there 2 years now, and we have a small dedicated staff that are just amazing. But really, the biggest part of hospice is our volunteers. We have literally hundreds of volunteers, and they do the most amazing work, and they are the most amazing people you've ever met in your life. And in fact, I think your mom and your sister were some of the first volunteers ever for the Hospice Society. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
That is very
neat. And our founder, Teresa Hotel, one of the founders it would be 38 years ago now, and that was formed in the basement of the United Church. Yeah. And she still volunteers to this day. So that too is just amazing to me.
Yeah, that's very neat. Very neat. So I know that there's been a lot of controversy with respect to medical assistance in dying, and there's been some controversy, particularly with what's happened in Delta and going back and forth there. And I know that you had to make some difficult decisions. Can you talk a little bit about MAID? And I've personally been involved with a close friend who chose to go with MAID, and it was, I think, one of the most uplifting experiences of my life, being with him the day before and knowing how that went. And just wondering if you've got a perspective on that, and particularly as we're facing new legislation around how that might function more effectively.
Yeah, I think it's personally, I'm in full support of MAID and having that option available to people. I think the only challenge is there's certain religious beliefs that believe, that are not for it. But to me, and with a lot of discussion with the board of directors and our staff, to me, it's a medical decision between a patient and a doctor. Hospice is there to meet our patients and their families on their terms. And part of our training is we don't judge. We go in with no ego and no judgment, and we're just present to support them through whatever stage they're at and whatever support they need. So it's not for us to decide whether MAID is correct or incorrect. We've been very clear with our volunteers and staff, if they choose not to be a part of it, that's just fine. It's not a problem. And if they choose to be a part of it, that's fine as well, which some of our staff and volunteers have been asked to be present. But it's really a decision that a family has to, or a patient has to make. I think that I guess the way that it's presented, that people ask for hospice or for MAID is more than, I think it's 80% of the people that ask their physician about it, after discussing it, choose not to, because at that point, there's trained people that offer them options to find out really, why do you want it? You know, are you experiencing, because so many times the patient just doesn't want to see their family suffer, so they want it to end quicker. But then the Fraser Health will get the supports and to say, well, did you know we can have somebody come in to help support here and here and here? And then they're like, okay, well, as long as you can get my family help, then I think, you know, I'll wait. So it's really, they've put these measures in place so that it's not what a lot of people think, that you sign on a dotted line and, you know, it's this, you know, you have to jump through a lot of hoops for it to happen. But for some, I remember a patient in Alberta that had cancer, and it was in her mouth and nasal area, and it was, you know, growing so fast that, you know, her teeth were spreading out. She was in such pain. She had quit seeing all her family and friends because she was embarrassed. She wouldn't let nurses near her to help her. And we literally had to wait until she passed, rather than, because that option wasn't available then. And she would have she literally begged for that option. And when you've seen something like that, you realize that this has to be an available option for some. It's not for everyone. Everybody's individual in their birth and in their death. And it's just a medical option, a choice.
Yeah, and clearly there are some challenges around that. And we're looking at those people with intellectual disabilities and the ability to do that. And so the protections in terms of that are also so important. In terms of, now, when we go back to looking at, starting to look at death and dying, I guess it goes back to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and her stages of death and dying, like denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance, hope. Where do you see hospice and care going into the future, or what do you anticipate will be the future changes that we might see? Are we in terms of a value based, have we reached the areas we want to be in, or do you see some further changes occurring in the terms of care and support for people in those stages of life?
Well, I think there needs to be a lot more changes and a lot more growth in this area. I think it's so bizarre that death is like a taboo discussion when every one of us are going to die. It just amazes me that you know, how people shun away from it. I think the Hospice Society and a lot of people have these preconceptions that, oh, hospice is, you know, you go in there, you know, it's like this death place and it's horrible, and you don't get to be at home, you don't get, you know, the comforts of home. As we bring more awareness to what hospice is, it's really just provides support to the family and to the patient for that gentle end of life care. So many people that are, you know, want to die at home. It's tough. I mean, it's a nice idea and everything, but the toll it takes on the family can be sometimes so devastating. So that's where hospice comes in. If you can't manage, and your family can't manage your pains and symptoms at home, hospice is an option. And people, I think more awareness has to be brought to the fact that It is a very, very nice and pleasant and supportive place to go at the end of your life, should you not be able to be at home. And that's all just about awareness and education. There's just so many preconceived ideas of what hospice is. And a lot of people don't realize that the Hospice Society provides grief support for the family and loved ones after and long after, where there's no time limit on grief, but also not just for those that died in hospice, but sudden death, suicide, drug overdose. We care for all those people. And so hospice needs to, we need to bring more awareness of all that it does and what good work it is. It's just a more holistic approach to end of life care, because it encompasses everyone that's involved. Because every person, it's not just about the person that died. There's this, everybody else that they're connected to is going through this death. So they all need support. So really, there needs to be a lot more awareness of what an amazing service it is. And the fact that volunteers do the majority of it. We get a small portion from Fraser Health. I think it's about $47,000 a year. And I divided it one time for the volunteers' hours. And if we were to pay that money directly to our volunteers, they would have made 11 cents an hour. So it's amazing how much financial burden it takes off our community too. Like, it's huge. Plus, when you get that grief support, these people can enter back into the community as full functioning, healthy adults. So we can't measure the impact it had on what could have been a mental health issue, or unable to work, unemployment, all of that. Those are hard to measure, but I can assure you that every person that we helped, we took out of that part of the system and kept them going on. So it's huge. And I don't know that people realize that, or how you relate that to people.
Just all of this compassion and interest that you've shown in community. Is there someone who was sort of a role model or inspired you to this over the years, or was there some particular incident in your life that helped you come to this kind of compassionate approach to understanding hospice and understanding people?
I don't know if there was any. I more think of things that happened since I get involved in how it's happened. Two of my brothers have committed suicide, so I've had to deal with that kind of death. But I don't know if there was any one thing, except that community led me to that role, a love for community. And I think when you're able to see the benefits of, like, somebody coming in a supportive care center, just heavy with grief, and they come once a week for counseling, and you see them standing a little taller each time, and then visiting with the receptionist and having a laugh. I'm sitting, from my office, and I can see, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love my job. Like, this is the most amazing thing. And I've been able to do things like recently we brought a patient's horse into the new hospice, because with this new hospice, there's a large garden area. And so she was able to come out and be with her horse. And I've done that before in Alberta, and it's with horses, and it's an amazing thing to witness. We've done, there's just amazing experiences. One here in White Rock was a well-known dentist and his friend. The one fellow, he was been fighting cancer for about, I think it was 6 or 7 years, and his best friend was supporting him all the way through that journey. And he went into, he decided finally he would go into hospice. He was going to stay at home. His wife was very tiny, and he had one fall, and she couldn't get him up, and they realized, we need help. They came to hospice. But the amazing story was, this friend who had supported him all through this, just near the end, had started experiencing health issues, and then found out that he also was diagnosed with cancer. They ended up in the hospice here in White Rock, across the hall from each other, best friends. And they stayed and they visited each other and they died within a week of each other. but it showed me, the power of like friendship and love and care for each other. Like those are, there's just, I could go on and on with the stories that I've witnessed and been that are so amazing. So it's never, I don't think it's one person. I think it's just moments that just, energize you to do this type of work. And how I got here was through community, and hospice is a community unto itself. And it's just an honor and a privilege to be a part of it.
Is there a message that you'd like to leave to people? Some people who perhaps don't understand hospice, some people who are either not aware of it or are frightened by it and don't want it to talk about it. And is there a sort of a visionary or message that should be given to people? Is there a moniker that we should be conveying in terms of the availability of this compassionate caring at that crucial time in people's passing?
Well, I don't know if I can wrap it up in one phrase, except that people need to be open to the fact that these services are there, and they're free, and that it's there for people to access, and they should be open to the idea that support is there, and we love to be able to provide it, and it's beneficial in the long run. It benefits prior to the death, it benefits after the death, and it's just an amazing caring environment that I've only ever seen good come from.
And I guess it fits within the context of a caring community, and that's the services go across the whole spectrum of our lives, and a willingness to be involved in a community that has that type of caring. And this, of course, hospice leads to the end of life, but it's a beginning and change for everyone who's a part of that person's life at that point in time. So thank you, Beth. Thank you so very much for participating and providing those insights and comments. It's much appreciated. Thank you for joining us today on Community Connections. Please tune in to our next show as more amazing people share their wonderful stories. If you haven't already, please click on the red subscribe button below, right down there, and view our updates. Feel free to leave any thoughts or comments that you may have. We're always trying to do a better job of connecting this wonderful community. Thanks again for joining, and until next time, keep connecting. Thank you.